Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the next Wasteless World Talk today with Bill. Because we lost Kevin today. He is probably on bus, and maybe this is the reason why we choose the term bus as the topic today. And of course, we cannot start differently than with a question. If you close your eyes and I say bus, what do you see first, Bill?
Is it a verb or a noun? Bus also means to kiss.
No, then not the kiss, because I did not
Not the
know that
kiss.
it
Okay.
exists, the kiss.
Then a bus is what you get on to go to work or go shopping, and it brings the community together. I think of my wife growing up in Minsk, where they did not have private cars, and everybody took the bus. And you began to recognize the other people on the bus. This was the guy who works over in the clock factory, and he's not looking so good these days. This is the mother that's going home with groceries to feed her kids, and so on. And there are stories and quite a bit goes on in the bus. You in America, when we get on the bus, we put a dollar or whatever the money is into the box. In When my wife was growing up, they had to get their ticket punched, so they would hand the ticket to the person standing next to them, who would hand the ticket to the next person over to the punch box on the wall, and then uh, asking "Пожалуйста," "BA Пожалуйста," and they would pass it over and pass it back again. So it meant a whole lot of different things. In America, most everybody has a private car. So if you ride the bus, that is a commentary on your socioeconomic status.
It's quite interesting, and I will add one more meaning. You probably know that the bus is used in computer business as well. It's a
Oh,
component
yes.
through which it flows the data and something like that. And the reason why I choose it for the topic today was then that I wake up with one term. And this term it was in Czech language this time. Sometimes I woke up with English word, but this time it was a Czech word. And the word in English mean bus. But in Czech, it means more something like a collector. And this came back in my memory to the knowledge from the school when we learned that the first people has been the hunters and collectors. And I realize that recently, especially with the Google new device, which you put on your head and you see the reality and the virtual in one, that generally is the first time, I think it's the first time in history where a human become a tool of a machine, of an advanced machine. Because everybody is selling it as something which is great for the user, but in fact, it collects so much data about the user, including the eyes, including everything what we do. And it makes you so fast, it makes you so fast addicted that I think that many people who will try would not like to give it away anymore, because it's everything is in the touch of your hand. Everything you can touch the America, you can touch everything because you don't even need your hands to do so. And this was so strong that it wakes me up. Then I realized that the word in English is bus, and I decided I have to have it as a part of the conversation. And of course, I discussed in the noontime as well. And we came to a very after the 1 hour, because it's 20 minutes longer. It was very interesting, but because we came to the fact that if you step in a bus, you are giving your life and everything to a driver. You don't know how he will ride, whether he will go in the right direction, in which speed, and so on, and still you hand it over. And we came to the conclusion in the noon that we should be the bus drivers, every single one of us. And the worst thing is, if you are a bus driver and there is nobody behind you, you look back in the rear mirror and there is no one. You are driving empty bus, maybe filled with money, and what? No one. And you so nicely described at the beginning how the people who are in the bus have their stories, how these are the people you meet, these are the people, whether they are poor or it does not matter. We have the same social aspect. If you drive the public transportation in my country, it says like you are not privileged or you have a social trouble, something like that. I don't like it. I don't call it so, but it is common here. So there are so many aspects of the bus in many ways that I think it's quite interesting term.
The word that comes to mind, but I didn't say it a few minutes ago, but the word that comes to mind is community. This is a community. Another example comes to mind, and that is in some medical communities, communities of patients who have medical problems. There is a term they say you have to drive your own bus.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they say that is because uh, up recently and still even now, many people look at doctors as demigods, infallible. Um, in fact, I even had a doctor say to me one time, don't think that your 1 hour on Google is equivalent to my 8 years in medical school. Said to me. He's no longer my doctor. Um, but we say to each other, you have to drive your own bus. That is, you're the boss. You make the decision. You're going to take this medicine or do that. That's your choice. You ask the experts, but you have to drive your own bus. And I don't know where that saying came from, but we say it to each other a lot, especially when we're saying, "Well, the doctor said this. What do you think?" And we say, "Well, it's your choice. It's your decision. Drive your own bus."
It is interesting because it is probably not older than 100 years because the buses has not been there before, So it will be in the past. They have to say you have to drive your own carriage probably because there was no bus at the time. But what is interesting, 2 days ago I was riding to load next truck of cable drums, and I came along with a friend of mine, the manager of a company, and we just talked about our youth. We are almost at the same age, and he said when I lived in a mountains as a child, there came it was in a village. He lived with his grandma, and he said once per week there came a bus as a shop. I don't know whether you have this in the US, but we have buses at the time, so in the communist time, which came to a small villages. You know exactly what when they come. You can pre-order some things directly in the bus for the next one. And he said, I really enjoy it. And all the people in the village know when it will come. They know the people inside. The driver become the cashier, stand on the cashier desk, and so on. And he said, I do remember there was a library as well as a bus. What is crazy, in my city, there is library as a bus. It's a mobile library still riding, existing, and it's a bus full of books, which is wonderful.
And we have the same. We have had the same thing. The traveling peddler. We called him a peddler. I think he peddled various pots and pans and things like that. and they would go to the small villages. Um, I think today, not so much today, because if anybody in the small villages wants something, they just order it on Amazon, and the mailman brings it. Also with the books, we still have book buses. I'm not sure what they call them, but and they'll go to the schools, and all the little school kids will come out, go to the bus, and just have a great time looking at all the different books. And here's a book about traveling around the world. Here's a book about outer space. Here's a book, and it gets their imagination going, right? Also a bus. Yes, I hadn't thought about that.
You just mentioned one interesting topic. You mentioned that in the past, the people get in one place and the bus came and uh, let's call it feed the society with food or something else, because all the people come at one place. Today, you order for yourself. It's
Yes,
not building up community anymore.
yes,
And that's a very big difference. From the logistic point of view, of course, complete nonsense today, because why shouldn't the neighbors agree and get one full truck or one full load of shopping, which will be carried by one car, and they just share it? No, every one of us has to order separate shipment. And even the shops, the shops do not speak to each other. They are sitting in the same industrial zone here, for example, next to each other, but every single one ship his own car. So you have to wait for 5 couriers or whatever, and they do not agree. And just recently, a few years ago, they started to build, I don't know whether it is in the US, like the metal box with doors. They deposit your shipment there and you can come. And there's a lot of here around. You just need a code on your mobile phone. It opens and so on. So it's quite, let's say, convenient. But I told them from the very beginning, why don't you go 2 or 3 or 5 in one unit? No, it's not possible. Last year, finally, I have seen one which combine more shipping orders or shipping companies in one box, which is great. Why not? But it completely disappeared, this working together, because we are all competitors.
yeah. In fact, my wife and I were just talking about that the other day. We live in a condominium by the ocean. I told you, that's what I love. But um, sometimes we talk about, would you like to buy a house? And we have owned houses before. We've lived in a house. Um, but I enjoy living in a condominium. And what I enjoy about it is when I come in the front door, I bump into one of my friends. We exchange, how are you doing? We go to the mailbox once a day, and it may take 60 seconds or something. You always run into somebody. And so you know how the lives of um 20 or 30 other people are going, right? And you share with them. And they may or may not share um, uh, your beliefs about religion or politics or anything else, but you don't talk about that. You talk about, how are you feeling? How is your grandson doing? Right? And so there is a sense of community living together like that, which is missing when you own a home, and you're so busy with the honeydew list of painting this or mowing the grass or whatever. Um, and and then when you get into the affluent neighborhoods, they have zoning regulations that says that any house that you build here has to be on a 5-acre plot. 5 acres is big. So you never meet your neighbors. You don't meet your neighbors going to the mailbox. You don't say hello to your neighbors for days or weeks at a time. And so this whole sense of community, which you started with the bus, which is a sense of community, and if you ride the same bus all the time, you say hello to people. Hey George, how's the knee feeling? Oh, it's still sore. You exchange. And when you have your private cars, you miss that. And when you move out of the condominium into a house, you miss that. And so there's something in our psyche uh, that misses that wants to be with people. I love the bus. Good idea.
Uh, Generally, I was surprised about the term honey-do list. That's that's a great one, Bill. That's a really great one. We
You
don't
know what
call
it
it
is,
so, but it's really great.
and you know exactly what it is.
I know this is the list which in my flat goes longer and longer because
Oh yeah.
I don't like to do the things, and I'm not expert. So exchange the electric plug. I'm not electrician, so it's no. So, but I like the term. I think this was one of the reason. Even at the time when the people has been the collectors, they collected things, but they collected things to survive. Today, we are the thing. We are being collected to feed a machine. I don't know whether you have seen the news today. It appeared just few hours ago globally. The OpenAI, who is behind the ChatGPT and the other, so I think it's the biggest association or whatever it is company. It's probably company because they have quite a high profits and so on. And they announced today that they have switched on ChatGPT memory. It does not have memory. It did not memorize the previous conversations. And you know yourself. So we are, as humans, we are building the future on the memories. We learn something. So if something was hot, I will not touch it again because I do remember it was hot. But I don't know why they did it. But they said that there was no memory in a ChatGPT. So if you speak with them for an hour, two, four, of course it memorizes. But if you come again, it will start from the beginning. And I saw it, if you remember my chat regarding the Seinfeld and Industry 5.0, it was generally very similar, and I was confused about it. So, and they switch it on today or yesterday.
I'm surprised that it wasn't switched on a long time ago because uh, that's how we know what what tomorrow will be like. Because we connect the dots. If you don't have a memory, you don't remember those dots that happened yesterday and similar ones today. And if you connect them, you can see what's going to be happening tomorrow.
The question is, everybody can connect the dots differently. But if you
Oh,
have a
yes.
set of information which is given, you will not provide a different answer than which is needed. So I think it can be a purpose not to have a memory, not to mix up, to do everything according to the standards. I would like the answer is this. I do not want any connection of dots. But if they follow this idea that dots connecting can be, let's say, chaos in some way, uh, why they switch it now?
Right. Well,
Or
it
maybe
may
they
have been
forgot, maybe they just forgot that it should have a memory. It's possible as well. Professional blindness, so I don't know.
or it could be that memory requires so much data storage, which is very expensive.
Yes.
Um, so it could have been that, but I'll have to look for that article.
I will send it to you. So it is really in all news because it's surprising, to be honest. It's quite surprising, and it's few hours old. So and this is another advantage of the global connection. So I see what happened right now, and at this moment, I saw it in German newspapers. I saw it in the US ones. So It's quite interesting, but still we are here on the bus, you know. They just publish an information. But I think in some way, from my perspective, they are driving the bus, but there is nobody in the back. Maybe a lot of money. Maybe some of the evangelists of artificial intelligence. You know, just few minutes before we start, I saw again Antonio Guterres' tweet. I will try to find it because it was so, among others, Twitter blocked my account, and I spent 10 minutes to unlock it to prove to the robot that I am human. I never did it for such a long time. It was so complicated that I spent 10 minutes. And his tweet sounds like that. Our world badly needs reform of the Security Council, reform of international financial system, the meaningful engagement of youth in decision making. These 3 points are there, said by a man who blocked the change to be exchanged with a younger woman who was aiming for the role of the lead of the United Nations. A few years ago, there was election. So I remember him. I sent him the message again that I asked him 1.5 years ago to start to dissolve the United Nations. And he will, of course, not reply. This is a machine which makes such a post. It's not him. So quite interesting.
I'm not sure. You said the bus, there's nobody behind them on the bus. And I would guess that that's one of the reasons why they have so much power is that there are people behind them who just follow. They don't care. And it's not that they're, I don't say that uh, that there's something wrong with the people. They're just so busy feeding the children and paying the rent that on these big issues that require thought and discussion, they do not have the bandwidth to to get into that, and then they get in the habit of not thinking about it because they don't have the time, they don't have the energy, and so I think the bus is full. But what you are doing is the the very first step in changing things is to make people aware. It's awareness. In my with my clients, the very first step is we call it wake up, because it's so easy to get into the same pattern, and we go to the same office, and we do the same thing that we've been doing for so many years. In fact, my wife had a conference call this morning at her office, and it was an all hands meeting, so there were 1,500 people on their computers around the world. And they gave awards. And they gave awards for people who had been loyal to the company for 35 years. I thought, nobody listens to me. Here's people doing the same thing for 35 years. And you want to envision the future. You want to try to think what the company will need a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. And yet you reward people staying in the same place. You should reward people for going out into the wilderness and finding something new and living a different life, and then come back and teach the rest of us, right? You have to wake up and get out of the pattern. And so that's what you're doing. Wake up.
I had yesterday great interview in Canada. The host was from Canada. It was quite interesting. We met for the second time, and I would like to. I invited him to our WASTELESS World Talks. I think it will be quite interesting. And during the conversation, which was about Industry 5.0, he said, Michael, I have heard a great thing from someone. I do not remember who told me. He told me that artificial intelligence is like a fire, can be a good servant and a bad master. And when we ended, I told him, you know, from whom do you hear that? He said, no, do you know? I said, yes, it was me. Because it was in the first meeting I told him this. And he started laughing and said that it never, ever in his life happened something similar, that he quote the guest which he had 1 week earlier, and he forget. And he apologized. And I said, don't apologize. That's exactly what is right. If the memory, it's not my quote, it's an old Czech saying. So it's if it stay in your memory, the wake-up call was exactly the right one, because you take it out in the moment when was needed. So no apologies needed. But he was so surprised about it, and it was a great moment, to be honest. And I think, as I said, he will be quite interesting contribution, and we will see. We will agree on that. He cannot
Yes.
join today, but he said he will check what we have spoken about, and he will join. So maybe we will have a new guest. But I really love what you described.
And when you first said the word bus, I thought, oh, what a simple topic.
It's every time we say that, you know, it's
Yes,
every time.
yes. I think I hear the word and I think, how can we talk for 30 minutes about that? This is what it is. It's here. I know. I understand it from all angles. I know what that is. And 5 minutes into the conversation, I realize that it's going in many different directions. And it helps. And here's another question along those lines. We've talked about waste. What is the opposite of waste?
I have this question. I ask myself this question many times. For me, the opposite of waste is wasteless. But I know that this is not the right term.
Right.
But in my head, waste and the opposite is wasteless. Or
And you
I
could
say
say,
wasteful and wasteless generally. These are these two words which are opposite to each other.
I would like to find another word because waste has so many different meanings. And when you just make the word wasteless, then you're just flipping it, but you're not bringing anything more to the understanding. If, for example, the opposite of waste were efficiency, but that word has too many meanings and it has some negative connotations. Efficiency. Is there a perfect efficiency? That's scary to think, right? And so it doesn't. I think it derails the discussion of waste if you talk about efficiency or perfect efficiency, and especially when we talk about wasting time. Is there perfect efficiency of time? And that's scary because does that mean no relaxing time or no just sitting and contemplating the universe time? So I'm not comfortable with efficiency, but then what is the opposite of
I think we
waste?
will come to this topic for sure. Kevin will be here of big help because of his rich vocabulary generally
Yes.
and rich in history, and he will listen to this conversation for sure. So I am sure we will come back to this. But I was participating yesterday on some European Commission, again, some event, and it was about the steel industry and generally it was Industry 5.0 in a steel industry and connected to artificial intelligence. the speaker has nothing. They did not spoke about Industry 5.0, of course. So, but I was allowed, which is not usual, which is not standard. At the end, there was a really time for questions. And you know me, I ask a lot of questions, and they let me speak. And it was interesting because there has been three speakers, about 50 people in the audience. And I explained who I am all the time. I say that and ask them some questions like how your project relate to Industry 5.0. There was complete silence. Of course, they did not know because they do not know until yesterday what Industry 5.0 is. But then one lady switched on as well to discuss with me, so not with the speakers, and she was a representative of European Recycling Association. And you know, she asked all the time the same question. How will be the work of our association members protected as an intellectual property? And when I listen her to for the fifth time asking the same question, so I step in and ask, isn't secrecy the negative thing? Shouldn't it be transparent? If one company find out how to utilize it, let's share it. No, it cannot be done because they are private, for-profit company. They have to make profit. This was the professional blindness in full rich picture. And you saw in a few minutes time how the people who listen really get disgusted by these answers. Because at the end I asked her, okay, so do you want to live on a global landfill? And she left the room. But it was quite interesting, you know, this professional blindness, this understanding of having one topic which seems so simple, even for 5 minutes is too long to speak about. And then you realize that without taking the bus into pieces, we are able to do so. And I think that, as you said, the wake-up call, maybe it is the moment when you show the people that there is a door out of the bus. You do not have to ride all in the same direction, especially if you don't know which direction it is. So maybe it's just showing the door, and the word can be the door. You know, on the Czech buses and on the public transport, there is a sign, and I think it will be in America. Don't speak with the driver.
Yes. Yes. Do not distract him.
Yes, do not distract. We have it in this way. So
I keep coming back to the meaning of the word bus, or the significance of the bus is the community. Of course, the primary is to get people from one place to another place, but it also is the community because we are social animals and we enjoy talking. Look what we're doing right now. And we are social animals, and the bus is a platform for social interaction. And I never thought about it like that before. And there are other um, places, the mailbox, for example. In my condo, the mailbox is a place for social interaction.
and you know,
It's not just a metal box.
Few weeks ago, we spoke about elevator. Bus
Yes.
is nothing else than horizontal elevator, generally. It moves you
Yes.
from one place to another and should move more people at once. So everything is connected. So we are going in the right direction. So before we go horizontally, vertically, right now we go horizontally. It's fine.
So you're talking about physically going horizontally or vertically, but this conversation that we are having, and with all the people who will watch this later, we are also going someplace. And I'm not sure where we are going, but I can feel the movement. We are our minds and our imaginations are moving just like a bus. And I so one of my personal pride I take so much enjoyment from is in a with a client and the client's um, planning team, which is usually 6 or 10 people, and we try to do the wake up and we try to see new things and bring speakers in who are experts in different things. And their discussions, at the beginning of every meeting, we say, okay, so what gee whiz things did you have this week? And someone will say something, and someone else will say, oh, yes, I know. And when you apply that to airplanes, or when you apply that, right? And pretty soon you have what we call a popcorn discussion, where someone on one side of the room is saying, here's what I found, and gee, that was neat. And someone on the other side of the room will pop up and say, oh, yes, and that applies to this. And someone on the other side of the room will, and so it's like popcorn. Um, and the whole room, the whole community that is the planning team is moving like a bus and is feeling the social benefits of this sort of discussion, like we're having right now, uh, which wakes up their brains and they end up in a different place than where they started.
And generally, they end up in a different place because you break the silos or the cocoons in
Yes,
which they are closed. So,
yes,
and it is exactly, and it is a simple process. Just talk about something which you don't know anything. You know, when I spoke with my grandfather, we have so much fun because we have touched so many topics which we don't know anything about.
yep.
And he looked at it from a 100 years of perspective. You know, it was so interesting to compare that every single of our discussion or the talks about nothing which I have and so on is just fraction of these great deep talks, which for me, I know the direction. You know, the direction is in wasteless world. I know I will see it, but I know as well I will not live in it. These two facts I have, I have accepted, and I am not doing it for me. I'm doing it for
Right.
the planet, for all the people on the planet. So, and we have 2 more minutes to left.
So, and to that exact point, how many times you can talk with somebody, even about the same or similar subjects, and still never touch so many things that need to be touched. And we are currently writing my wife's biography. She grew up in the Soviet Union. She immigrated and became a citizen and learned so many different things that she did not learn, had not learned it. And so I talk with her, I talk with her mother, and I talk with her aunts and her cousin. And every time I think, okay, the book is, this is good, this is good. And then I talk with, and I realize, oh no, I did not even touch this point of this. For example, there's buried pain for so many different things that people will not talk about, but it's all part of the same package. So I think discussion is so important. Language is so important. Um,
It is,
so thank you for
but
bringing up the topic.
we are at the end
It's all the
again.
bus.
It was great to talk about bus, and I am sure Kevin will have a goosebumps at this moment riding the bus, even not knowing that it is about the bus. But I would like to wish everyone, and you especially, have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, be human, and drive your bus the right way. And see you next week. See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.